What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the same. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. Michele Tonkovitz of Green Onion Creative. Before I formally introduce Michele, I always like to point out other episodes people should check out. And since these are powerful top women leader like yourself, and especially agency owner, check out, I did Allie Lefevre of Obedient Agency. They kind of mix in comedy with the brand message of a company. So that was a fun episode. And Darcy Garvin and Debbie Pontera of D2 Media. They do more traditional stuff like TV, billboards. Yes, all those stuff still exists. Radio still exists today and still works. So check those episodes out. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And we do that by helping you run your podcast. You know, for me, Michele, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way to do that over the past decade to profile the people and the companies I admire on my podcast and share with everyone what they are working on that is cool. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com or email support@rise25.com. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. Today, I am excited and I want to give a shout out to Pat McGovern from Acedia and also the American Marketing Association of Milwaukee, who introduced Michele to me. And Michele Tonkovitz, like I said, is founder of Green Onion Creative. And, you know, you look young, Michele, but you've been writing creative copy for over a decade. And her offerings don't just stop at creative copywriting. They also do design, social media, PR, and much more. And we're going to dig deep today on growing the business, also on some of the client stuff that you do. So Michele, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the compliment of looking young. I will be turning 43 in July. So I credit it to moisturizing and I don't have too many gray hairs yet.
You know, it's funny I say that because most people don't go, you know, when I grow up, I want to have an agency. Right. But you actually did say that.
I did.
So talk about that.
So when I was growing up here in the Milwaukee area, my aunt was a media buyer for a few of the agencies in the city. And so as a kid, I got to do really cool things like go see Disney on Ice, get tickets to the Milwaukee Admirals game, go to the Wisconsin Dells. And I got to experience all that through my aunt. And so I bet you I was about 8 years old when I decided I want to be in advertising when I grow up, because she got to meet Mr. T and Jay Leno. And while I haven't met Mr. T or Jay Leno, I definitely knew right away when I hit college, going through that career path of being a copywriter and then taking the plunge right into the agency world after graduation.
Did you have any mentors, whether distant or personal, as a copywriter? Were there any specific books or mentors? I'd love to hear, because I geek out and I think copywriting, I was actually telling my 10-year-old daughter this yesterday. It was like, if you could learn copywriting, it is so valuable for everything that you do. And it's the foundation, I feel like, for a lot of things.
I think you are absolutely right. If you can articulate not only in conversation, but through the words on paper, or I don't know if paper really exists all that much more. Now it's through text messages and digital platforms. It can take you so far, and you can write until you can't write anymore, right? It's something that will stick with you, for the ages. I know as a kid, I started off just like many other boys and girls out there, and I had a journal. And so I used to jot down my thoughts. And then as I continued going on, through my schooling, I really took a liking to creative writing classes. In Milwaukee, we used to have a food critic, and his name is Dennis Ghetto, and he passed away a few years ago. But when I had gone to school at UW Milwaukee, Dennis Ghetto was one of my adjunct professors, and he was hard. And if anybody out there is listening and knows Dennis, you know that like he pushed you and he made me such a better writer. And so I just give many props and blessings and thank yous to him. Then when I started my career, I worked at an agency called the Roberts Group. And at the Roberts Group, I met a very wonderful woman who actually became my mentor, and her name is Cheryl DeChambeau, and I'm meeting with her for dinner tonight. So here we are, 21 years later, from when I first met Cheryl to we're still great friends this day, and she has provided me really wonderful insight on how to navigate the agency world when I was young, and now even more so. Being that strategic marketer, being that leader, and just being that friend. I've said this time and again to people, we are 100% professionals every day when we, get on our computers, go on calls, do interviews like this. But ultimately, we're just people. And if we can make that relationship, Jeremy, like you were talking about at the beginning, building those relationships, I think that is just as important, if not more, than knowing the tactical skills to do your job.
Yeah. Yeah. One of I would consider a mentor, and also got to meet him and hang out with him. And his book is Joe Sugarman, who just passed away. I'm sorry to hear about one of your mentors, Dennis. But his book on copywriting is amazing. And then the Boron Letters is also a book that was written by Gary Halbert and his son, Bond Halbert. I think updated it since. So those are two of my favorite resources as far as copywriting goes. And you mentioned, one of your mentors, Cheryl, about kind of being a guide in agency. So I want to talk about growth and some of the stuff you're transitioning. When you transition from solo to a team, which you've done, what were some of the key things that you did? Someone listening to this, whether they want to grow their team even more, or they are transitioning from solo to grow, to a team. What were some of the key things you did to grow?
I love this question because growth is something that's fairly new to me as Green Onion Creative is getting ready to celebrate its 9th year in business. Like you just said, I've been a solopreneur for the bulk of it. And it was through a great client of mine that they said, we can't figure out how to clone you. So we want you to build onto your team and add on a few additional writers. I didn't really know how to approach that. So I had to as a business owner, but also as a mentor and a leader, I just was really honest with my new employees. And I said, hey, this isn't really like my space that I've groomed my career to be. But if you work with me, I'll work with you, right? Communicate back to me. It's all about this relationship building that we were talking about. If you have faith in your employees, and they will in turn have faith in you, right? It's hard not to micromanage sometimes, but you have to let people be the champions of what you've hired them to do. And so now my employees, Nikki Ackerman and Emery Chernus are my two really strong creative writers that I have on the team. I'm letting them just run with projects, but now I'm in a space too where business is growing. I need to continue to add on to the team. And I think that's one of the struggles I'm having as a business owner right now is just finding the right talent to fit in for our client needs.
Michele, why do you think it took 7 years? Because I'm sure you had thought about it previously. Was it something you were resistant to, or was it something like, I just kind of like it being me? What was the thought process of why you hadn't grown the team up until that point, being pushed by your client? Like, hey, we need more people like you. We need you kind of leading the charge here. What was it?
So the biggest hurdle, and I'm going to be very honest and vulnerable here, is I don't like admin. I work in words. That's why I'm a copywriter. I don't like to work in numbers and technicalities and things like that. So it was really just the biggest hiccup was just going through all the rigmarole of trying to add onto the team. However, when you establish, again, good relationships and honesty with people, I went to my accountant and I was like, look, I got to add on some people. What do I do? And she's like, don't worry, we'll help you through it. we can do this, that, and the other thing. Through my connections with the American Marketing Association, I've been able to go to other conferences. I've been able to network. I've said, I need a new small business attorney. I have one that I got connected to. I absolutely love Melnick and Melnick here in Milwaukee. And in fact, I had a wonderful call with them today to talk about some of their marketing needs. And who knows, maybe that relationship will turn from one where I'm their client to where they can become our client.
So it was kind of the thought of this daunting thought of time and energy and effort of all the new stuff that you would have to do. And sometimes it's interesting, whether it's creating a standard operating procedure, SOP, or adding a client, it's like, well, I could just get this done in 10 minutes, and actually transferring that knowledge to someone may take 4 hours. We sometimes default to the easier, faster approach, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that easier, faster approach over time is not, because the volume picks up and you're really only one person. And just like that client of mine said, I can't figure out how to clone you. I can't figure out how to clone myself either. And so it's okay to say, I need help, and make sure that you are aligning with the right people that fit not only your personality and your style, but those of your clients as well, right? That's what makes a great working relationship. And again, just being honest and seeing that every day, each of these people is coming to work. They're doing their job the best that they can, but they have lives too. And sometimes we don't get a good night's sleep, or the dog throws up, or, there's bills to pay, and there's other things that linger in the back of your mind. If we can just be understanding about that and work together, we can achieve great things, not only for our clients, not only for Green Onion Creative, but for ourselves personally and professionally.
That client you had basically created that breaking point for you. So you're like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to jump in and do it. And you mentioned about adding talent. All right. So before we hit record here, we were talking about some of the things that you look at and how do you add talent. So at this point, that's one of the things you're focused on. So what are you doing to add talent?
So through networking opportunities, again, with the American Marketing Association, I've been able to find people in our marketing community here in Milwaukee who are either in transition or are looking to take a leap. I'm so excited to say that, honestly, before we got on this call, there is a gal who is a college student at Mount Mary College here in Milwaukee. Her name is Taylor, and I think she might be getting ready to graduate. She specializes in social media, and I've got an interview lined up with her on Monday. So I think that for myself, dipping my toe into the talent pool, I'm really trying all different areas, whether it's new grad, whether it's somebody who's seasoned professional, maybe it's somebody, again, who's transitioning. What I'm hearing a lot more of as well is that there are people who have degrees and experience outside of marketing who really are interested in getting into the marketing field. And so in those cases, I'm very happy to work with somebody. Maybe it's on a 1099 contract basis. Like, let's do, a project or two, see how that works and goes. And maybe they can either become, I'm hoping that they will either become an ongoing contractor, or potentially we can add them onto our team too.
Yeah, I love your approach with that, because oftentimes we just default to job boards or things like that. But you're like, there's a resource there of new grads possibly, or getting, training people from locally, right? So it's someone local, to you in Milwaukee. So you have that affinity there, that proximity. And there's lots of, wherever you are, lots of universities all over the place. And actually, there's a resource I had on Frederick, who is founder of Absolute Internship, and they actually help pair university students with internships with companies, and then they can continue to work with them. So I love that idea of going locally as well, because I think it could be virtual. And so talk about, from the client perspective for a second. And I know that you do lots of different things, content, optimizing digitally, creative websites, and lately addiction recovery. So
Yes.
Talk about that.
So I am so proud to announce that Green Onion Creative helped a nonprofit here that's Wisconsin-based called Start Healing Now introduce their new website. So the nonprofit was formerly known as Stop Heroin Now, and they decided to do a rebrand. And so working with another agency and some other individuals, they were able to create their new logo identity, as well as the Start Healing Now name. And they came to me via a referral and said, we need help building a new website for Start Healing Now. Can you help? The resource that they had been working with really just fell off the face of the earth. And it happens more often than not that we have clients who come to us and say, hey, we just launched this website and then the company that did it went under. Or I had a friend's, husband do it and now they got divorced and we can't continue on with this website. So pulling together the resources that we have from the Green Onions, regular team, as well as our trusted subcontractors, we were able to honestly launch the Start Healing Now website from concept to finish in record time. I think we started in February 1, pretty much is when we kicked it off. And we had the website launched right around the end of April. So if anybody's written, designed, approved, tested a website, you know that's no small feat. So kudos to my team. And if you want to see a sample of that, you can go to starthealingnow.org.
I want you to walk through the creative process for a second, because it's a big change. It's almost like a 180 from the negative, right? Stop heroin now to Start Healing Now. Walk me through a little bit of the process of that transition of the rebrand.
Right. So I'm not quite sure the backstory on how they settled on that name, but definitely when the Start Healing Now people, showed us their old website, it was black, it was red, it was harsh, it was kind of scary. And we know that people and families who are in need, the last thing that they need is fear in their life. And so by working with the client, we learned that purple is a color associated with recovery. And they had already developed a really great looking color palette for some of the other materials that they were creating. So really, we helped capture their vision that they had in print and execute it. Oh, there we go. And bring it forward. Yes. Through, a nice, bright feel. We wanted to be embracing, easy to navigate. So we use stock photography and we're able to capture some good stories, some good quotes by working with the client. Their team of partners is wonderful. And the best thing about it is Start Healing Now is an all-volunteer organization. So the people who are contributing to their advisory council, to their partners, to people who are going to continue on with ongoing website maintenance, they all believe in the mission. And when we can provide a product, right, when we can provide a website that feels good and works good for them, then we know that we did good for our client.
Yeah. And anyone who's just listening to the audio and you aren't watching the video, you can check out the video, because we're actually have on here. I pulled up starthealingnow.org and you can see what Michele is talking about with the color scheme and then how they design this and in general, right? And some of the navigation as well. And these are kind of these details that people don't realize takes a lot of work. You have all these drop down with the About Us and our team, partnerships, history, and then the homepage. So I'll just explore it from it's an amazing organization, but also from a sense of looking at it with, well, here's some interesting ways they designed the website itself.
And especially if you are creating a website that is going to provide some type of service such as this, you really want to make sure that it is as easy to get to the information that the visitor wants as possible, right? Because sometimes people are going online and typing into Google, where do I get help? Because that's their first line of trying to make a bad situation better.
Yeah. What's cool about what you do is you serve a lot of different really interesting niches. And there is one called Bostik. And I'd love for you to talk about what they do.
Oh my gosh, I love Bostik. Bostik is that client that gave me the little nudge to go ahead and get those employees. And so I'll tell you, when I first started working with them, I think it was back in 2018, I never imagined in my life that I would be working for a client that creates adhesives that go in baby diapers, adult diapers, and feminine hygiene products. But here I am, 4 years later, and I love it. I love the team at Bostik. It's a global team, so it's really very cool to know that the content that Green Onion Creative is writing, in some cases, it's getting translated into 9 different languages. We're really helping Bostik as well as the absorbent hygiene industry get very valuable messages out there that, products that were once thought of as being like single use and creating garbage in landfills, with this new lens of corporate social responsibility and the importance of having sustainable products. Bostik is going to the labs and they're formulating and introducing new products. They are coming to the table with great ideas for their current customers, as well as prospective customers. And the neat thing is Green Onion Creative, this tiny little shop here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is a part of this, what can be really a globally changing consumer mindset.
So talk about some of the things you do with them. You mentioned, do you then kind of translate what they're doing for corporate responsibility onto their website so other people know? What other things do you work with them on?
Yeah. So we definitely develop a lot of content that is live on the website. So optimizing that content for search is really, really important, right? So that's everything from the URL to the H1, H2, image alt tags, meta descriptions. We do also help them create white papers and one-pagers, which typically are PDF documents. There's a lot of digital opportunities there to optimize. So make sure, my advice to you is to pull those levers. We have helped them launch a podcast. So they're now also in the podcast space. I think we're about 1 year in now to the Attached to Hygiene podcast. And with each of those episodes, Green Onion Creative helps them create the show notes, social media posts, as well as email newsletters highlighting what's in the episode and what additional resources are available. We've helped with everything from promoting upcoming webinars and trade shows to writing press releases and traditional media like that.
What are big mistakes people make with SEO?
Oh, one of the biggest mistakes, honestly, is the names of your files. So when you have, image file ABC-123 dash question mark, what people aren't realizing is, as we here in the United States have the Americans with Disabilities Act, right? The ADA. More and more people are starting to use software on their computers and their phones and different devices where it actually reads to you what is in your email box, what's on the page. And so all those instances of file names, image files, pre-headers for emails, if you're not leveraging those as opportunities to communicate your message, imagine just listening to an email and all of a sudden in the middle of it, it's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. It's going to cause so much confusion. And so one of the biggest things that I would encourage people to do from an SEO, an optimization standpoint is really just take some time to rename those files and we've learned that dashes are the preferred character between words versus an underscore.
And, we were talking about the Start Healing Now. And I'm sure there's a lot of things you see when you're redesigning the website from, here's what we want to do now, and rebrand and probably help with navigation and colors. What are some of the mistakes people make in their web design when you first go to their site to redo it?
Some people really have too deep of a website. And unless you are really following your Google Analytics, many times your site doesn't need to be that deep. And so it just becomes a quagmire and there's too much information out there and it can be overwhelming. And so many times we recommend a more simplistic approach for launch. And then let's continue the conversation and the build in stages 2, stages 3. So we really so in the case of Start Healing Now, they had a whole different URL, right? Their domain name was different. So we really needed to create this new identity based on their starthealingnow.org URL versus stopheroinnow.com. And so honestly, and we've had other clients too who have had WordPress websites and they just knew enough to be dangerous and they've never installed updates and plugins. And so things are broken, and that happens so often too. And honestly, while there's a lot of tools out there, like Wix.com is great for creating a basic website. You can go ahead in WordPress and start creating your own website. But unless you're going to give the time to keep it maintained, you really should look into using a partner, because when those plugins start to break and go outdated, it can cause big problems. And we actually had one where a client recently, somebody tried to make a bunch of fraudulent purchases on their WordPress website, which is using WooCommerce. And QuickBooks identified those fraudulent purchases and shut it all down. And so then nobody could make any purchases. And so we had to go in and find some workarounds and some fixes. And that sometimes the free options, while they're nice to start, they get you like 95% of the way there. And it's that last 5% that you really have to pay for. So please, I encourage you to also just put a little money on the side in the kitty for your website, not only updates, but sometimes upgrades.
Yeah, I love that advice, because sometimes nothing's really free. And also sometimes those plugins or whatever are free, they stop supporting it. And that leaves holes in your website that can be security issues and take your whole site down. So sometimes it's worth just spending extra 10, 50, 100 or whatever it is so that it doesn't affect the business. I'm sure you see that time and time again. They're trying to do it on a budget first, but then it can bite them later.
Absolutely.
Michele, first of all, I have one last question, but before I ask it, I want to point people to greenonioncreative.com and to check out what you're doing there. Are there any other places online we should have people check out?
Absolutely. So go to our website, you'll find our presence there. And just so everybody knows that we are in the process of also redoing our website. So depending on how soon you go and how often you revisit, you might see that there's a little different look to Green Onion. From there, we also have links to our social media pages. And if anybody ever wants to get in touch with me, you can always find me on LinkedIn. And that's Michele, Michele, last name Tonkovitz, Tonkov as in Victor, Itz as in zebra. You can always find me there and connect that way. Or you can just email Michele with one L at greenonioncreative.com.
Awesome. Michele, last question is, for me in my career, what's helped me the most is being amongst peers in communities and groups. So I'm wondering what your favorites are. And of course, I'd love for you to talk about the American Marketing Association in Milwaukee.
So I am proud to say that I am the current president of our AMA Milwaukee chapter. I've been involved with the organization, I want to say, for about 5 or 6 years. And I got started with the AMA just as a chair for events. And so I was helping coordinate events. I ended up becoming the VP, then president-elect, and now I'm president, and actually I'm looking for the next president-elect. I really encourage people to check out local organizations like your AMA, or maybe if you're in PR, then it's PRSA. We have another marketing type of organization that's called ANA. And another great one.
What does that stand for? So American Marketing, AMA, for anyone listening, is American Marketing Association. There is an AMA, American Medical Association, but we are talking about the American Marketing Association. What does the ANA stand for? Do you know?
I do not.
I forget. I mix up all these acronyms.
I feel like it used to be like, it's one of those where I think it used to be named something else. Like, right, we still have like the Direct Mail Association, and then
Association of National Advertisers. No, that's not. There's so many different associations.
Right.
There's an Association of National Advertisers. It looks like it's called
Maybe
the ANA. Is that
it.
the one? Okay.
That could be it.
All right.
Well,
I think that is.
I want to put on everybody else's radar another great association that was started here in Milwaukee, but it's actually getting a global reach. And they're a great friend and partner of the American Marketing Association Milwaukee chapter. It's called the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator. And I've gotten a chance to work with Pat Miller, their founder. He puts on amazing content that is like on Facebook. Like, they do this thing called Night School, and you can learn different tips and tricks and techniques. They had their first ever retreat last year, and they had brought in all of these wonderful speakers that talk, literally from like around the country, and I think even around the world, to talk about different areas of marketing and where to find opportunities. And we did this thing called an idea slam, and we all had lunch together, and it was like, hey, how do I do this? And like, we all just talked about it and kind of threw out ideas. And the Idea Collective is really growing. So again, that's the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator. And I'm excited to continue developing a relationship with them through the AMA organization, but also getting Green Onion Creative more involved, because there's other small business owners like myself in that group. And I can not only provide insights to them from a marketing perspective, but I have so much that I can learn from other small business owners to help me continue to grow the Green Onion.
Awesome. Michele, thank you. Check out other episodes of the podcast, Inspired Insider. Check out greenonioncreative.com. Check out Rise 25. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like $100 grand.